Hi guys, in this video I'll be doing a thorough breakdown of the following 1-minute interview.
茨城の方なんですね。
はい、そうです。
はい。で、ワンちゃんちょっと紹介してもらっていいですか？
バーニーズマウンテンドッグですね。
バーニーズマウンテンドッグなんですか？
はい。
山の関係があるんですか？
そうですね。
例えばどんな感じなんですかね？
山の山岳犬みたいな感じだったんですけ
あ、
ど、
そうなんですか。
救助犬みたいな。
なんか荷物とか持つ感じですか？それとも。
そうですね。一応力あるワンちゃんなんで。
いやー、ものすごくありそうですよね。で、何歳なんですか？
今7歳ちょっとです。
7歳。これ以上は大きくならないですね。
ならないですね。
大人、いい大人って感じで。すっごくおとなしいですね。
そうですね。
吠えることありますか？たまには。
ほとんどないですけど。
ほとんどなくて。
うん。僕たまに。
たまに。例えばどんな時ですか？吠える時は。
そんな宅配のお兄さんとか。
全く知らない人が来る時とか。かわいそう、宅配。僕は平気だったけど、宅配はダメっていう感じなんですね。
こういうとこは全然、うちらがいれば。
何食べてるんですか？
一応フードとあと毎日お肉関係ですか。
肉関係なんですか？やっぱり。そうなんだ。筋肉マッチョって感じ。
そうですね。
今日はいつも、一年中こんな感じなんですか？
そうですね。
あ、そうなんですね。ありがとうございます。
Alright, let's jump into the breakdown. Okay, so in this breakdown, the blue text is from my speech, and the green text is from that of the interviewee. Alright, let's jump right in. So we start with 茨城の方なんですね. Okay, so 茨城 is a prefecture in the Kanto region. I live in Tochigi, so it's right next door. Then we have no, which is the possessive particle, often translated of. Next, kata, which is person. It's the honorific word for person. The basic word for person is just hito. Okay, so put those together. Ibaraki no kata, a person from Ibaraki. And you're showing respect to that person if you're speaking to them, or about that person if you're speaking about them. Okay, let's look at some other examples that use kata. Okay, so Kankoku no kata. Okay, a person from Korea. Otomodachi no kata. Otomodachi is like someone's friend, and so here you're making it honorific by adding no kata. YouTuber no kata. Okay, once again, YouTuber is just a YouTuber, and you're adding kata to make it honorific. Okay, so this is a very common structure in Japanese. Okay, then we have nan desu ne, which means right, basically. This consists of des, which is the copulative in Japanese. A copulative is a part of speech that says A is B, basically. And the short form of the copulative in Japanese is da. Okay. Then we have ne, which is used to seek confirmation or affirmation. In this case, okay, so you could say, for example, sensei nan desu ne, which would be, oh, you're a teacher, right? You're a teacher, right? Or dokushin nan desu ne, you're single, aren't you? Something like that. You can also just use this to repeat what the other person said. So they say, you know, they're a teacher. Oh, sensei nan desu ne. You're just showing that you're listening, basically. Okay, in this case, I'm saying Ibaraki no kata nan desu ne. So you're from Ibaraki, right? And the reason I'm saying it this way is because before I started the interview, I actually talked to him a little bit and I learned that he was from Ibaraki. So I was just kind of drawing that information out of him one more time for the sake of the interview. So, Ibaraki no kata nan desu ne. So, if you know something about someone and you want to use that as a conversation starter, you can use this pattern, no kata nan desu ne. So, Kankoku no kata nan desu ne. Or if you meet a Japanese person in your home country, of course, you could say, ah, Nihon no kata nan desu ne. You're from Japan, huh? And it's a very polite way of saying that. So definitely go ahead and practice this with several different patterns. Okay, so the man responds, hai, so desu. Okay, so hai is yes. He's just affirming what I said. And so desu is just another way of affirming what the other person said. So hai, so desu. Yeah, that's right. Okay, very straightforward. Okay, so moving on. はい。で、ワンちゃんちょっと紹介してもらっていいですか？はい。で、ワンちゃんちょっと紹介してもらっていいですか？ Okay, so here I start with はい as well. But it's not like I'm responding to a question from him or anything. It's just a way of kind of moving on to the next topic. はい. It's like cool. Okay, and then で very similar to that. And so, moving on, etc. Okay, so just progressing the topic. This is very, very conversational to use de in this way. Okay, and then wanchan. This is a word for dog. You might be familiar with the word inu, which means dog as well. Wanchan is kind of a cuter way of saying dog, and it comes from the fact that dogs in Japanese say wan, wan when they bark. Okay, they don't say bark, bark, they say wan, wan. And chan is just kind of a cute ending, so wanchan. Something, a cute thing that barks, basically. So that's a dog. By the way, cats say nya, and sometimes you'll hear people refer to a cat as a nyanko-chan. So this is kind of a common way of using language in Japanese. If you listen closely to the dialogue that I have with the man, you'll hear that I say wan-chan, which is actually a mistake. The intonation for this word dog should be wan-chan. If you say wan-chan with flat intonation, it actually comes from one-chance, which is like one chance, and it's a phrase that a lot of young people use nowadays. It has a lot of different usages. I won't get into that too much. Just go see if you can hear the intonation that I used, and I think you'll see that I made a little mistake there. But obviously, because of context, the man knew exactly what I was trying to say. Okay, and then chotto, which is a little. This is also used to soften requests. So, for example, ちょっと教えてもらっていい is 教えてもらっていい is can I get you to teach me something? And then you're just adding ちょっと to soften that request. Can I get you to teach me a little, just a little? Or ちょっと座っていい So, can I sit just a little? Okay, so in both cases, you're softening requests. And we'll look at these structures, もらっていい and 座っていい. We'll look at these in more detail soon. Okay, next in the dialogue we have 紹介して. So this is the te form of 紹介する, which means to introduce. Then we have もらって, which is the te form of もらう, which means to receive. And then we have いい, which means good, or in this case, okay. Okay, so let's look at those together. を紹介してもらう. Okay, this is to have someone introduce A. Okay, so now we can look at this てもらう structure. Okay, so 来てもらう. So 来る is the verb here, which means to come. You say 来てもらう, it means to have someone come. Okay, 手伝う means to help. 手伝ってもらう, to have someone help. Okay, so you're just using the te form of the verb and then adding もらう to have that person do that thing. 読んでもらう, to have someone read something. Okay? And putting more of that together, を紹介してもらっていい. Okay, so this is, it's okay to have someone introduce. Okay, so now we have もらって, so you have 紹介して, which is the te form, followed by another te form, もらって, followed by いい. Okay? And what you're saying with this te form plus いい is, it's okay to do something. Okay, so for example, このクッキーを食べてもいい is it okay for me to eat this cookie or these cookies? も is optional. You'll see it added in a lot of cases, but in the dialogue, I didn't actually use も. Okay? このクッキーを食べてもいい So yeah, so A を紹介してもらっていい it's okay to have someone introduce A. Okay? You're kind of giving permission in this case. But of course, this is a question, right? So I end with ですか So is it? Okay, so put everything together. ワンちゃんちょっと紹介してもらっていいですか Can I get you to introduce your dog? Is it okay to have you introduce your dog? That's basically what I'm saying here. So it's kind of polite. It's not super direct. It's a nice way of asking for permission or to make a request. Nice way of making a request. Okay, so the man responds with と Barney's Mountain Dog ですね. Okay, so と is just a shortened form of と which means basically So even when you're first learning Japanese, if you can start using と or あの instead of when you're thinking, it immediately makes your Japanese sound more like that of a native. So you can start using this from a very early level. Of course, the less you use it, the better, right? In the sense that you use this when you don't know what to say. But if you're going to use either way, you might as well use と instead. Okay, so he introduces his dog, Barney's Mountain Dog. Okay, so that's Bernese Mountain Dog. So I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but for now, just go ahead and note that this name uses the English word mountain. Okay, so obviously it's in katakana, but this word comes from the English word for mountain, right? Mountain. Barney's Mountain Dog. Okay, so just take note of that for now. ですね. It's kind of just like a friendly ending. He could just say des, but that would be kind of very straightforward. So ですね, it's kind of friendly. Kind of softens the tone of what his statement. So put everything together. と Barney's Mountain Dog ですね. So it's a Bernie's Mountain Dog. Okay, so here I'm just repeating what he said basically. Barney's Mountain Dog なんですか? So we need to look at this phrase here, なんですか? Okay, so noun plus なんですか is like a, etc. It's a little bit more of a question than なんですね, which we looked at up above, but basically it has a similar function. You're kind of just repeating what he said and showing interest. Oh, is that the case? Oh, that's the case, huh? Something like that. So let's look at some examples of that. Other examples. So 俳優なんですか? Oh, you're an actor, huh? お母さんなんですか? Oh, really? You're a mother, huh? Okay, so that's kind of how that comes across. Very, very useful in conversation to show that you're interested and listening. Also, it's a good way to just practice repeating Japanese words that other people say. Okay, so put that all together. Barney's Mountain Dog なんですか? He's a Bernie's Mountain Dog, eh? Okay. All right, and so there's the word mountain, right, in the name, mountain. Okay, so I pick up on that and I ask, 山の関係があるんですね. 山の関係があるんですね. Okay, so earlier we had the word mountain in katakana, right? And here we have the native Japanese word for mountain, yama. Okay, yama. And then we have kanke, which is a relation or relationship. Let's look at several examples. So, 数学の関係がある. 数学 is mathematics, の関係がある. It has a relation to mathematics. It's related to mathematics. Something is related to mathematics. Okay. 僕たちの関係は最悪だ. 僕たち our の関係 relationship は最悪だ is horrible. Our relationship is horrible. Okay, then we have が which is the subject marking particle. And then we have ある which is to be. And it's used for usually for inanimate objects, although there are some exceptions. Okay, then we have verb plus んですね. So earlier we looked at noun plus なんですね. It's very, very similar to that, but now we just use a verb. And it has, the same meaning, は, etc. So, for example, 来るんですね. Oh, you're coming, huh? So the verb 来る, once again, to come. 来るんですね. Oh, you're coming, huh? 終わったんですね. Oh, you're finished, eh? Something like that, yeah. Okay, so 山の関係があるんですね. So they have some relation to the mountains, eh? So I'm picking up on the fact that the name of the dog has mountain in it, and I'm asking more about that. So he says, yeah, そうっすね, そうっすね. So this is just a casual way of saying そうですね, which is just, that's right, right? That's right. そうっすね. Very casual sounding. It's still polite, technically, because it has the des in it, but it's kind of like casual polite, if that makes any sense. Okay, and then I want to ask more about that. So, 例えばどんな感じなんですか? 例えばどんな感じなんですか? Okay, 例えば just means for example. So you can say, for example, 例えば. So if I ask someone what kind of food they like and they say Japanese food, I can say, 例えば何が好きですか? So I want to know specifically what they like. Is it sushi? Is it tempura? Is it ramen? Or, this is really easy if you're just starting out. You can just say 例えば. For example, 例えば. So what kind of food do you like? Oh, I like Japanese food. お、例えば. そうだね、寿司とか天ぷらとか. Okay, so it's very, very useful if you want to ask for examples. Then we have どんな. Okay, what kind? What kind? Okay, so for example, どんな音楽が好きですか? What kind of music do you like? どんな音楽が好きですか? You can just attach どんな directly to a noun. Okay, 感じ, feeling. This is used all the time in Japanese, and it has a lot of different meanings. It's probably best to just kind of pick up on its sense from context, and you'll see it a lot in this conversation, so I think you'll be able to pick it up throughout this video. Okay, so 例えばどんな感じなんですか? 例えばどんな感じなんですか? And once again, here we have なんですか again. I'm just using this to ask for more of an explanation, I guess you could say, from the man. So どんな感じ is like, what kind of feeling? That's like a literal translation. But basically I'm just saying, for example, what does that entail? Tell me more about that. It's like a very general way of asking him to explain more about that. どんな感じなんですか? If you want to ask someone about work, for example, you could say 仕事はどんな感じなんですか? Like, how is your work lately? It's very general, very, very common in Japanese to use this word kanji in that way. Okay, so he goes on to give an answer. So 山の山岳犬みたいな感じだったんですけど. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. So let's take a look at this. So 山岳犬 is a mountaineering dog. Okay, so up above we had mountain in the name of the dog. And then I used the word yama, right? Yama, to ask him more about what kind of dog it was. And then now he's using san. Okay, so it's the same character for yama, but now it has a different reading, san. And the reason is because it's in a word that consists of all kanji, and so you use the Chinese reading, san, instead of the Japanese reading. So this is one thing that you'll immediately learn about Japanese as soon as you start learning it. Basically, it's that there are a bunch of different ways of saying basically the same thing, but different readings are used in different situations, and over time you kind of pick up which readings are used in which situations. You don't have to worry too much about that now. Just be aware that this is part of the language. Okay, so Sangaku Ken, a mountaineering dog. Ken is the character for inu, by the way, and as you can see, it has a Chinese reading Ken here. Okay, so then we have mitaina. Okay, this just means like. So you could say, for example, 彼は熊みたいだ. So彼は熊みたいだ. He's like a bear. Okay, so you just attach this mitai to a noun in this case, and then just add da, the copulative, to say he's like a bear. If you want to use the phrase preceding mitai to modify a noun, you can use na to connect it to a noun. Okay, so 彼は熊みたいな人だよね. So 人 person, 彼は熊みたいな, he's like a bear, right? So he's a person, 人だよね, like a bear. He's a person like a bear. Sounds a little weird in English, but it works perfectly in Japanese. 彼は熊みたいな人だよね. Okay, and so here we use this with kanji. Okay, so みたいな kanji. So like, right? みたいな means like, right? And kanji means feeling. So you combine those together and you end up with this very kind of vague phrase. And basically you can just translate it as like. Very vague phrase. So kind of convenient if you can't be specific or you don't want to be specific. So 山岳犬みたいな感じ. So he's like a mountaineering dog. And I got the impression in this dialogue that he's referring to the species of dog in general, not his specific dog. 山岳犬みたいな感じ. Okay, then he uses datta, which is just the short form of the copulative. Okay, so da is the short form of the copulative. This is the past tense short form, I'm sorry, the past tense short form of the copulative. So was, datta. Okay, and then we have this phrase, んですけど, and this is preceded by either a na or datta. Okay, so it means is, was, a, but. And it's used when you're giving an explanation. So for example, 刑事なんですけど, 刑事 is detective. So it's like, I'm a detective, but, he's a detective, but, and you're giving an explanation or a reason for something. 刑事だったんですけど. So he was a detective, or I was a detective, but something, 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 when giving an explanation. Don't worry too much about the details about this yet. Just kind of see if you can accept it as it is for now, and you'll pick up the nuances of this type of phrase over time, I believe. Okay, so let's take a look at the sentence. Okay, so 山の山岳犬みたいな感じだったんですけど. So they were like mountaineering dogs, but okay. So this but at the end here is a way of just implying that there's more to be said, but he's not going to actually say it, right? So he didn't actually have an extra thought. If you listen to the dialogue, I think that'll be pretty obvious. Okay, so I respond, あ、そうなんですか? So I just kind of show surprise. そうなんですか? Really? Is that so? Very useful. Once again, if you want to show you're interested in the conversation, そうなんですか? Oh, そうなんですか? It's a very useful phrase. In Japanese, I didn't write it here, but aizuchi are very, very important. Aizuchi are words and phrases that you use to show that you're listening, that you're paying attention. There are lots of these, and they're used all the time. So if you watch like a talk show or something, you'll hear that as one person's talking, the other person, as they listen, they say, "Oh, そうなんですね。すごい。そうなんですか。なるほど。That's aizuchi. Very, very common in Japanese. Okay, and 救助犬みたいですね. Okay, so he's telling me a little bit more now. 救助犬, rescue dog. Once again, we have the kanji for dog here. Red ken. 救助 just means rescue. 救助犬, rescue dog. 救助犬みたいですね. So they're like rescue dogs. And once again, he's being a little bit vague. I mean, he's probably not an expert on this type of dog or anything. He just happens to be an owner of one. He knows a little bit about them. He doesn't want to be too specific, so mitai, like. They're like rescue dogs. Okay, I respond, なんか荷物とかを持つ感じですかそれとも. Okay, so, shows surprise. Kind of like aizuchi, like I talked about before. Nanka is something like, once again, kind of being vague a little bit. Also just stumbling over my words a little bit at this point. Okay, nimotsu is bags or luggage. Okay, then we have noun plus toka, which means among other things and things like that. This is super useful if you want to make an indefinite list. Okay, so for example, someone asks you what you like, what kind of Japanese food you like. Sushi toka tempura toka ga suki desu. So I like sushi and tempura, among other things. So using toka implies that there are other things indeed that you like. Okay. And next we have motsu, which is to hold. And finally, at the end of the sentence, I use soretomo, which is or. So let's put that all together. Okay. なんか荷物とかを持つ感じですかそれとも. So here, I use toka with just one word, actually. So I don't even make a list. But basically, I'm saying, did they like carry bags, among other things? Or... And once again, this or... I wasn't going to actually finish the thought necessarily. I'm just kind of leaving the sentence open for him to fill in the blank, so to speak. So, なんか荷物とかを持つ感じですかそれとも. So you can use this at the end of your sentence to show that you're aware that another possibility might exist. And if one does indeed exist, you would like the listener to fill that in for you. All right. Okay, so the man responds. 一応力あるワンちゃんなんで. Okay. 一応 has tons of different meanings. In this case, I think fairly is pretty good. 力, power, strength. 力があるワンちゃん, a strong dog. Or a dog that has strength. The particle here would be ga, but particles are omitted in casual speech all the time. So, 力あるワンちゃん, a strong dog. So, he's kind of being humble about his dog's strength, right? Ichio, fairly powerful. I mean, obviously the dog is, if you see the size of this thing, he's obviously pretty strong as far as dogs go. But yeah, he's kind of being humble, ichio. Okay, then he has nande, which is a shortened form of nanode, followed by preceded by a noun, that is. When you start learning Japanese and you learn question words, you'll learn that nande is why, but this is not why, okay? This is actually a totally different word, so make sure you don't confuse it. It's an abbreviation of nanode, which means so. So. Let's look at some examples of this used in casual speech. So, あの子が好きなんで, あの子好きなんで. I like that girl so. So, 子, you might know, is the word for child, but it's also used to refer to young women. And this could be women in their 20s or even in their 30s sometimes. And sometimes you use the word musume, which is daughter, and you write the kanji for daughter and you put the reading ko to mean young woman. So, あの子好きなんで. I like that girl, that young woman. So, 俺の車なんで. It's my car, so. Okay. So, very casual. なので. Shortened form, abbreviated form of なので. Or contraction, I guess you could say. Okay, so, put everything together. 一応力あるワンちゃんなんで. Well, they're fairly strong dogs, so. Okay, so I respond to that. いやー、ものすごくありそうですよね. So, remember, to say strong, he said 力あるワンちゃん, right? He uses the verb ある to be. And that's why I use the word ある in this case as well. So let's look at this phrase, okay, sentence. Okay, so いやー, expresses being moved, impressed, in disbelief, etc. ものすごく very, extremely. すごく alone means very, and you're just kind of emphasizing that with ものすごく. ありそう okay, seems to be. So remember, once again, he's talking about power, right? 力がある ワンちゃん. So ありそう seems to be. Okay, so let's look at this form here. So ありそう okay, so we have the mas stem あり in this case plus そう okay, seems to be something something. Okay, so 今日は暑くて死にそう so 今日は today 暑くて hot, it's hot, and 死にそう I feel like I'm going to die. I seem like I'm going to die. It seems like I'm going to die. 今日は暑くて死にそう it's like really, really hot, right? So kind of exaggerating how hot it is. 今回の試合は負けそうだね。今回の試合は負けそうだね。今回 this time の possessive particle 試合 game like a sports game 負ける to lose something 負けそうだね。It seems like we're going to lose this game. Maybe it's a really strong team you have to play or whatever. Okay. Good, so that's must and plus そう Put that all together. いやーものすごくありそうですよね。Yeah, he certainly seems strong. Okay, moving on. で、何歳なんですか? Okay, once again, we have で here just to kind of move on to the next part of the conversation. 何歳? How old? 何歳なんですか? How old is he? So once again, we have this 何ですか pattern. And as I stated before, you're kind of asking more for an explanation. You're trying to draw out more information. Okay, so we use this noun plus 何ですか? Okay, 何歳なんですか? How old is he? Actually, I'm not sure 何歳 is technically a noun, but it works in this case as well. Okay, so 今7歳ちょっとです。7歳ちょっとです。Okay, so 今 is now 7歳 7 years old. Okay, ちょっと. We looked at this a bit before, but it's used differently here. It just means a little. So put that all together. 今7歳ちょっとです. So he's a little over 7 years old. So you don't actually use the word over here. You just use little and put it after an age, and you get a little over that age. Okay, so 3歳ちょっと. A little over 3. 5歳ちょっと. A little over 5 years old. Okay, and then I just repeat what he said. 7歳. これ以上は大きくならないですね. Okay, so we've talked a lot about repeating what the other person says, so here we have it again. Literally this time, though, I'm literally just repeating what he said. I'm not even adding like a desu ka or anything, just repeating exactly what the guy said. So in Japanese, this is called omugaeshi. Okay, it's kind of a conversational technique, very common in Japanese. Literally, all you're doing is repeating what the other person said. You don't want to overdo this, of course, but it's a great way to show them that you're listening. And if you're a beginner, it's a great way to practice your Japanese as well, because you'll be repeating what a native speaker said right after they say it. And so it's a good way to see how close you can get your pronunciation to theirs. So use it a lot when you're first starting out, and then over time you'll get a sense of how much you should actually use it to kind of be a natural conversationalist. Okay, following that, これ以上. Okay, more than this. は topic marking particle. So は is the topic marking particle, but it kind of has a unique usage here. So let's look at that a little bit. これ以上は. Okay, so literally it's like saying as for bigger than this, which is extremely weird in English. But the effect of it is kind of like saying bigger than this. It's kind of like you're emphasizing this. And let's look at the next part. So 大きく. This is the adverbial form of 大きい, which means big. So all you have to do to get an adverbial form of an I adjective in Japanese is change the I to a ku, and you'll get the form there. Okay, so you could say like 大きく育つ. So that's is to like grow up. So to grow up big. Okay, or 風船を大きく膨らます. 風船 is a balloon. 大きく big 膨らます. So to blow up. So to blow up a balloon really big. So it's kind of like an adverbial form of the adjective 大きい. Okay, and you can use this with words like なる and する. Okay, so in the dialogue I say 大きくならない. This means won't become big. So you take the adverbial form and you add なる or some form of なる. In this case it's the negative form, and it means to become. that adjective. So 大きくならない won't become the adjective, which in this case is big. Okay, so 小さい is small. So once again, we're changing the い to a く. Okay, so we're using the adverbial form, add a なる, and it means to become that adjective. So 小さくなる, to become small. You can also use する at the end to say to make something that adjective. So 小さくする, to make something small. Very, very useful. You can use this exact same pattern with basically any E adjective to say to become that adjective or to make something that adjective. Alright, so put everything together. 7歳. これ以上は大きくならないですね. 7. He won't get any bigger than this then, huh? And this is kind of a joke. Obviously, he's not going to get any bigger than that. And so you can hear us kind of laughing in the dialogue. So the man says, はならないですね. So は, he's basically just repeating what I'm saying. It's like おむがえし. ならない, negative short form of なる, to become. We just looked at that a little bit. はならないですね. Yeah, no bigger than this. Ha 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 ha. We laugh a little bit. Okay, moving on. So 大人、いい大人って感じで、大人 just means adult. いい in this case is good. Put the two together, いい大人, you get a fully grown adult. I'm kind of stumbling over my words a little bit. 大人, I wanted to say いい大人, but I said 大人 first, and so I just kind of fixed my speech, I guess you could say. Just kind of redid it. いい大人って感じで。って感じ is just a form of という感じ. So という can be shortened to で in casual speech. We already looked at kanji. This is used all the time as well. Let's look at an example of this. This is another phrase that kind of makes what you're saying vague. So very popular in Japanese. I use it all the time. I use it probably way too much, to be honest. So for example, ゲームはもうやらないって感じ. So you're not going to like play any more games or what? You know, it's very vague. You're not asking directly. You're not playing any more games. You're just like, oh, you're not going to do, oh, what? Or, yeah, very vague. Okay, so 俺が嫌いって感じ. Oh, so you don't like me anymore? Or okay, so something like that. Very, very popular in Japanese once again. Okay. So yeah. Oops, I forgot to add the translation here, but yeah. もう大人いい大人って感じで. Oh yeah, so it's like he's a full-grown adult, I guess, huh? Something like that. Okay, and next one. すっごくおとなしいですね. Okay, so すっごく. This is an emphasis of すごく, which we looked at before. Means very. おとなしい, calm. As you can see, this actually comes from the word for adult, 大人. So you might think of it as adult-like, but it really just means calm. Okay, so すっごくおとなしいですね. He's really calm, isn't he? そうっすね. Yeah. そうっすね. Yeah, that's right. Okay, next one. 吠えることありますかたまには. Okay, so is similar to which we looked at before. It's just used when you're kind of thinking. Basically, 吠える is to bark. こと is the nominalizer. It's like adding an ing to a verb in English. So 泳ぐこと. 泳ぐ is swim, so 泳ぐこと swimming. 踊ること. 踊る is dance. 踊ること dancing. あります is the mas form of ある which we looked at before. So 吠えることありますか does he bark basically. It's literally like saying is there barking? Is there barking? In a textbook sentence this would have a wa or a ga, but this is a casual conversation so you don't really need either of them. Be nice if you had them, but they're often omitted. Okay, たまに sometimes. Probably tokidoki is more commonly learned for sometimes in textbooks, but both are okay. たまには. So once again, we use wa to kind of indicate a comparison, I guess you could say. So たまには, not, it's like たまに would just be sometimes, right? But if you add a wa, it has the sense not all the time, but sometimes. Okay, so there's kind of like a contrast or comparison there. This really just takes a lot of exposure to get used to. It's kind of hard to explain in a couple sentences, but you get it over time. So 吠えることありますかたまには. Okay, so this is like saying, does he bark sometimes? Okay. So in a textbook, you would see probably this order. たまには吠えることありますか? Or even just, you wouldn't even need the wa in this case. たまに吠えることありますか? But I kind of tagged it onto the end of the sentence because it popped into my head at the end of the sentence, I guess you could say. So this is very common as well in speech. Kind of sentence order gets changed a bit. You could even put it before the ありますか? So 吠えることがたまにありますか? That would also be okay. Okay, so he responds ほとんどないですけど. Okay, so ほとんど is mostly. ない is the negative short form of ある, which we've already looked at. ですけど but. Okay, so ほとんどないですけど. Mostly not, but ほとんどなくて. Okay, this is like おむ返し, just repeating what he says basically. なくて is the te form of ない. So I'm just kind of like leaving the end of the sentence open. So he adds more information basically. Okay, he says ごくたまに, ごくたまに. ごく is extremely. たまに is an emphasis of たまに, which we just looked at. Okay, so ごくたまに, extremely rarely. He hardly ever barks. So I'm curious, right? Like, well, when does he actually bark? Okay, so I ask him. So I start with おむ返し. Okay, so just repeating what he said. たまに. Okay, 例えばどんな時ですか? 吠える時は. Okay, so yeah, like I said, たまに is おむ返し. 時, when. Okay, so if you attach a verb to toki, you get when that verb takes place or took place, depending on the tense you use. Okay, so 行く時, when I go. 来た時, when that person comes. There's a little bit of a difference between using the present tense and using the past tense. I won't get into that too much, but you can find an explanation in your grammar book for sure, or online. So just learn it as when for now. Okay, so 吠える時 when he barks. Okay, so let's put that all together. たまに. 例えばどんな時ですか? 吠える時は. Sometimes, eh? For example, when, on what occasions does he bark? Okay, どんな? 宅配のお兄さんとか. Once again, we have おむ返し. どんな? He's kind of thinking out loud. どんな? He could say どんな時, but he just went with どんな. 宅配, home delivery. 宅配のお兄さん. So お兄さん is big brother, but it can also be used to refer to a young man whose name you don't know. Okay, so どんな宅配のお兄さんとか. So when, like when the mailman comes. And remember, とか is used when you want to say that there's more elements to this list, but I'm not going to mention them now. So there are other situations when the dog barks as well, but this is the one that the man could think of on the spot. Okay, so どんな宅配のお兄さんとか. This is a very abbreviated sentence. He could have said like when the mailman comes, but he actually didn't even use the verb comes in this case. Okay, so I kind of like fill in more information, I guess. 全く知らない人が来るとか、来る時とか、全く知らない人が来る時とか. Okay, so I'm kind of generalizing here. So 全く is completely, 知らない is the negative short form of 知る, which means to know. So it means I don't know. Be careful with this verb because when you want to say you do know or someone does know, you actually use the ている form. So 知っている, I know, 知っている. When you want to say you don't know, you don't use the てない form. You use just the basic negative form, 知らない, I don't know. Okay, so put everything together. 全く知らない人, a complete stranger. Like literally, it's a person, 人, you completely don't know, 全く知らない, but we would say stranger in English, right? So 来る to come. Already looked at that one actually. So 全く知らない人が来るとき, when a complete stranger comes. And then we add とか. 全く知らない人が来るときとか. And once again, I'm just indicating that I know that there are other situations, but I'm just listing one of them. This is a little bit of a mistake on my part. It should be 来たとき. 来たとき. Once again, I won't get into the details of this. It's actually pretty complex, but you can find a good explanation in your grammar book or online, so just check that out if you need to know more about that. Okay, so he responds, そうっすね. Once again, yeah, that's right. かわいそう宅配. Okay, so かわいそう. I'm kind of joking around a bit. かわいそう. So poor thing, poor guy, etc. a lot of people think this is related to kawaii, which means cute, but it's not at all. No relation whatsoever. Okay, moving on. 僕平気だったけど宅配はダメっていう感じなんですね。Okay, so 僕 is I, masculine. 平気 is fine. だったけど was a but. Put that together. 僕平気だったけど so he was cool with me, but okay, next we have ダメ no good. Okay, so everything together. 僕平気だったけど宅配はダメっていう感じなんですね。Yeah, so everything else is stuff we've already looked at, right? So 宅配はダメ so the mailman is no good. っていう感じ. Remember, I'm kind of just making stuff vague once again. Okay, so translate that. He was cool with me, but can't stand the mailman, huh? Or I guess because I say って感じ, it would be like, it's like he can't stand the mailman, huh? Okay, and the man responds, こういうとこは全然うちらがいれば. Okay, let's take a look at this. So こういう, just like this. とこ is an abbreviation of ところ, place, very common in speech. こういうとこ, so places like this. 全然, not at all. So 全然 technically should be used with negative verbs, right? Because it's not at all. So like 全然悪くない, not bad, 悪い, bad, not bad at all. 全然高くない, not tall at all, not high at all, not expensive at all. That's how it should be used technically, but these days, people use it for positive words as well. So 全然大丈夫. So 大丈夫 means fine, okay. 全然大丈夫. So completely fine, completely okay. I have a little theory about this. Oops, I actually made a mistake here. I meant to put ない after this. My theory is that this comes from saying 全然問題ない. So there should be a ない there, sorry. 問題ない means no problem. So that would make sense, right? Because 全然問題ない, that's a correct usage. So it's like no problem at all. But 問題ない, another way to say 問題ない is 大丈夫. So my theory is that over time people kind of kept saying 全然問題ない, and eventually they just ended up changing the 問題ない to 大丈夫, 全然大丈夫. But it's just a little silly theory, so you don't have to take it too seriously. Anyway, it's used in this way nowadays, and it's pretty normal. So he doesn't even add anything after 全然. He just says こういうとこは全然. So he's implying 問題ない or 大丈夫. Okay, so places like this are fine, no problem at all. うちら, okay, this is we, family. うち is used for an in-group. Okay, so うちの猫 is like our cat, like my family's cat. うちの会社 is like my company. You're like referring to a group of people, kind of an in-group. And then we add ら, okay, which is just indicates plurality. So 彼ら, they. 彼 is he, right? ら, add ら becomes they. 僕ら, we. 僕 is I, add ら, we. Okay, so it indicates plurality. So うちら, we, the family, when the family's here. Okay, いれば, conditional of いる, to be, animate. Check out my shorts if you want to learn more about how to conjugate verbs. That'll help you a lot. Okay, so うちらがいれば, as long as we're here. Okay, put everything together. こういうとこは全然うちらがいれば. Okay, so places like this are fine as long as we're here, as long as the family is here. Okay, I kind of move on to a new subject now. 何食べてるんですか? 何 is what? Okay, 食べてる is the present progressive form of 食べる. Okay, let's take a quick look at how to make the present progressive. Okay, so you just take the te form plus いる. Okay, so 飲む is to drink, right? Change it to the te form 飲んでいる. I am drinking, he's drinking, she's drinking, etc. 踊る to dance, 踊っている. I am dancing, she's dancing, whatever. Okay, so te form plus いる, present progressive. And then in casual speech, the I sound is often omitted, so 飲んでいる becomes 飲んでる. 踊っている becomes 踊ってる. Okay, very common. Once again, oops, I forgot to put the translation here. 食べる means to eat. Okay, so 何食べてるんですか? What is he eating? What does he eat, basically, is what I'm asking. I apologize for missing the translation there. Okay, and he answers 一応 Okay, so once again we get 一応フードとあと毎日お肉関係ですね Okay, so food, dog food. Okay, so I've never actually heard dog food referred to as just food, but it's pretty obvious that that's what he's talking about in this case. To and okay, so this is used when you have an exclusive list. So 鉛筆とボールペン, so a pencil and ball pen. 野菜と果物, vegetables and fruits. Okay, so it's different from toka and ya, etc. because these are the only two things in the list. Ato is like and, basically. So you can use this after a period in a sentence to provide more information. So for example, 中華料理が好きです Okay, I like Chinese food. あとは it's like I also like blah 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 blah. Okay, so pay attention to this punctuation. This is very important for ato. Okay, 毎日 every day. You can just use this directly before what you want to say you do every day. So 毎日スポーツをします Okay, so there's no particle, there's no ni, there's no day, anything like that. Just 毎日スポーツをします I play sports every day. Okay, お肉 Niku is meat. O is the honorific particle, and you just add that to meat. It's very, very common to add the honorific particle to meat. There are other words that are very common with the honorific particle. Omizu, for example, water. Otomodachi, friend. Ohana, flower. You don't need it, but it's pretty commonly used in these cases. Okay, put everything together. 一応フードとあと毎日お肉関係ですね So dog food for sure, and meat related stuff every day. Okay. I respond 肉関係なんですかやっぱり Okay, so やっぱり is like as expected. We've already looked at なんですか right after a noun. Okay, so 肉関係なんですかやっぱり so meat, eh? No surprise there. He's quite a big dog after all, yeah? Okay, そうなんだ筋肉マッチョって感じですねそうなんだ I'm kind of just talking to myself. I think there's like a little pause in the conversation. I wanted to fill it, so そうなんだ The polite form is そうなんですね but this is very under my breath, so I don't have to use the polite form. I'm talking to myself. Okay, 筋肉 muscle 筋肉痛 sore muscles 筋肉繊維 muscle fiber, etc. Very common word. And I'm adding macho in this case, which comes from macho. So そうなんだ筋肉マッチョって感じですね Once again, we get this って感じですね kind of just making stuff vague. As I said before, I use this way too much. You don't have to use it as much as I do by any means. Some people use it a lot. そうなんだ筋肉マッチョって感じですね So, he's super jacked, eh? そうですね Yeah, that's right. Okay. Moving on. K はいつも一年中こんな感じなんですか Okay, so K is fur or hair. いつも always. Thinking out loud. 一年中 all year. K はいつも一年中こんな感じですか Sorry, I'll do that one more time. K はいつも一年中こんな感じですか Is his fur like this all year? So here, 今日はいつも I wanted to say is this fur always like this, but then I wanted to be more specific, so I kind of say this is what I really wanted to say 一年中 all year こんな感じなんですか Is this fur like this all year? そうですね Yeah, that's right. そうなんですね It's like, oh, cool. ありがとうございます Kind of abrupt, but yeah, thank you. And I end the conversation there. Alright guys, that's it for this one. Thank you for watching to the end. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section and I'll be sure to get back to you. Thanks again for watching and I'll see you in the next one. またね